Are you sure everything is okay?
Yes, I promise. Everything will be fine.
Rain poured over the glass walls of the mansion, blurring the city lights into streaks of gold and silver, as if the heavens themselves were weeping for the boy lying unconscious in the grandest bedroom money could buy. Machines blinked in soft, relentless rhythms. The air smelled of antiseptic and fading hope. Doctors had come and gone, their expensive suits and hushed voices unable to disguise the truth they all carried in their eyes. They had done everything they could. Armin Shah, a self-made millionaire who owned half the skyline outside his window, stood helpless beside his son's bed. For years he had believed that wealth was power, that power was protection, and that protection could buy miracles. But now his 10-year-old son, Ryan, lay pale and fragile beneath crisp white sheets, untouched by the reach of fortune. The illness had arrived like a thief in the night, sudden, vicious, and unexplainable. Specialists from across the country had been flown in. Experimental treatments had been attempted. Prayers had been whispered by servants in quiet corners. Nothing changed. Ryan's breathing grew weaker with each passing hour, and Armin felt something unfamiliar clawing at his chest. Fear that no deal could negotiate away. That evening, as a storm rattled the iron gates of the estate, a commotion stirred at the entrance. A beggar had appeared, drenched to the bone, his clothes little more than rags clinging to thin shoulders. The guards tried to force him away, but he stood firm, his eyes strangely calm despite the thunder cracking overhead. "I must see the master of the house," he insisted. "His son calls for mercy." When Armin heard of the disturbance, irritation flared. He had no patience left for madness or superstition. Yet something, perhaps desperation disguised as curiosity, made him order the guards to let the man approach the covered porch. The beggar stepped forward, water pooling at his feet, and looked directly at Armin with an intensity that felt almost unsettling. "Give me something to eat," the beggar said softly, "and I will heal your son." For a moment the world seemed to pause. Then Armin laughed, a hollow, brittle sound. "Do you know who you're speaking to?" he demanded. "The best doctors in the world have failed. And you think a piece of bread will change that?" The beggar did not flinch. "It is not the bread," he replied. "It is the kindness behind it." Anger surged through Armin. He had donated to charities, built hospitals bearing his name, funded scholarships. Kindness was not foreign to him. Yet none of it had saved his child. "You want money?" Armin snapped. "Take it and leave." "I want food," the beggar repeated, his voice steady. "From your hands." The request was absurd. But inside the mansion, machines continued their merciless beeping. Armin hesitated. What harm could it do? He gestured sharply to a servant, who hurried to fetch a simple plate of rice and bread from the kitchen. Armin took it himself, stepping closer to the beggar. Their eyes met, one filled with skepticism and pride, the other with something unreadable, almost compassionate. "Here," Armin said coldly, thrusting the plate forward. "Eat." The beggar accepted the food with both hands, as though receiving a sacred offering. He bowed his head briefly, murmuring words too soft to catch, then ate slowly, deliberately, as the rain softened to a whisper. When he finished, he wiped his hands and looked back at Armin. "Take me to your son." Every rational thought screamed against it. Yet Armin found himself leading the stranger through marble halls and glittering chandeliers into the dim room where Ryan lay. The beggar approached the bed without hesitation. The doctors protested, but Armin silenced them with a raised hand. What was there left to lose? The beggar placed his thin palm gently on the boy's forehead. His eyes closed. The room grew unnaturally still, as if even the machines were holding their breath. Seconds stretched into eternity. Armin felt foolish, standing there believing, even for a heartbeat, in something so impossible. Then the heart monitor's rhythm shifted. A stronger beat echoed through the silence. One of the doctors leaned forward, frowning at the screen. That's not possible," he whispered. Color began creeping back into Ryan's cheeks, faint but undeniable. His fingers twitched. Armin's breath caught in his throat. "Ryan?" he choked. stepping closer. The boy's eyelids fluttered. Slowly, as though waking from a deep, heavy dream, he opened his eyes. They were clear, focused, alive. "Baba?" Ryan's voice was weak, but it was real. The room erupted into stunned gasps. A nurse began to cry. The doctors stared at their instruments, as if searching for a scientific explanation that refused to appear. Armin dropped to his knees beside the bed, tears streaming freely down a face that had not known tears in decades. He grasped his son's hand, laughing and sobbing all at once. When he turned to thank the beggar, the old man was already walking toward the door. "Wait!" Armin called, scrambling to his feet. "Who are you? How did you do this? Take anything, money, a home, whatever you want." The beggar paused at the threshold and looked back, a gentle smile touching his weathered face. "You gave me what I asked for," he said. "Remember this night when someone hungry stands at your gate?" And then he was gone. The storm had cleared completely. Moonlight spilled through the windows, bathing the room in silver calm. Outside, the city shimmered as it always had, unaware that something extraordinary had unfolded within the mansion walls. Armin sat beside his now sleeping son, listening not to machines but to steady, natural breaths. For the first time in his life, he understood that wealth could build towers, but compassion built miracles. And somewhere beyond the gates, a man in ragged clothes walked quietly into the night, leaving behind a truth more powerful than money. Sometimes the impossible waits only for an act of simple, genuine kindness.